And given this is a stream for everyone in the chat, I'm sure you're well aware, but I'll give you the rundown. This is Real Talk. Myself, Kevin Regami at Power Up Audio. I am hosting this thing every week, every Thursday at 4 p.m. PST. We had a bit of a break to ship a game and to give me a break just for my life in general. So thank you for coming back now that we're back again.
So important that.
It was worthwhile. It was kind of, oh, thanks, Windows. Let's pick a time to update. No, I'm good. This is a stream. It's a demo reel review stream based in game audio, mostly sound design. We take a look at up-and-comers and their work, and we say, hey, here's what you might maybe consider to get some more traction in your respective careers. And we're looking at a few things here. I'll bring the criteria up. There you go. So we're looking at presentation, material selection, content quality, and distinction. Just to keep us kind of on the rails somewhat. It's a pretty free-form chat kind of show in general, but we try to go over these things as they're generally what people look for when they're looking to bring on a prospective hire for a given project, right? So presentation, we're looking at the site on the whole. We'll give you our idea of kind of how your page is looking and what that might suggest to visitors as far as what they should do first and that kind of thing. And we're looking at the reel itself for presentation and the flow of it, the information in there, everything, if there's too much or too little, that kind of thing. Material selection, we're looking at what is in your reel and your portfolio and what those chosen projects and demo materials might suggest about your past work history and your current skill sets and your future ambitions. For content quality, simply is it good? And distinction, are you standing out? So, are you stoked, Vince?
I am very stoked.
You're very stoked. Perfect. Before we get started, I know we haven't had a guest host on for a while, but when we used to some time ago, like a year ago, our last one was, I think. One question we like to ask is how they got their own start in game audio. And given they may have been doing it for a while already, and it's not like there is a tried and true template as far as how you get the gig, but it's, given the theme of the show is people getting their own start and getting a little more, like I said, some more traction going in what they want to be doing. Yeah, it's just like kind of, it's important to remember, like everyone started somewhere. So, like my first project was like this dumb Find the Difference Flash game, and there was like 12 sounds, and that was it. It was done. But oh man, shipping that thing was like, yeah, pretty. I was beaming walking home, very very light in my step. But so if you wouldn't mind indulging us as far as what your first gig was and how you got that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So I feel like it's kind of like two stories there because I had sort of like I kind of put 2 feet in 2 different doors in the game industry sort of early on. Mm-hmm. Obviously I'm working with that game company and I've known these people for a long time. Genova Chen and, Kelly Santiago and all those people I knew from back in college days.
Oh, okay.
And we had worked on games early on. Depending on how you trace it back, you could say that the first That Game Company game was actually one of Genova's students' projects back at USC called Cloud. Mm-hmm. And I actually worked as the sound designer and music composer on that game. I was actually an interactive media student just 1 year earlier than Genova. So we worked on the same projects. And that is how we knew each other. And we just kept in each other's orbits for different sorts of projects. Mm-hmm. Famously, Austin Wintory did Flow, which was Genova's actual master's thesis project at USC. But then I came on to do the next project after that, which was Flower. And so that was kind of one part of my, that building of my connection to the games industry.
Right.
But really, while that was going on, I just kind of had this feeling that I was so much connected to these people, and they really stood out by being so separate, by being so different from the game industry as a whole. And there were other things that I wanted to do within the game space. So I made a lot of friends, especially in the fighting game community.
Okay.
And I would hang out with those people, and I talked about stuff like, oh man, I would love to work on a fighting game. And And it was those people that actually clued me in to this company that was working on an honest to goodness fighting game in the style of something like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and those classic 90s Capcom fighting games. And once I saw that, after I had finished work on Flower, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to get in on this thing. I'm getting in on this thing on the ground floor. I don't really know any of these people very well, no college connection whatsoever, but I just loved that idea. This was something that I actually had a passion for. So I just pursued them, and I pursued them hard. And then finally they gave me the time of day, and it turned out they liked my stuff. So we kept on having that relationship for going on a decade now.
So what did your pursuit resemble? You said you pursued them hard.
Well, I mean, they gave me, they were indie developers, and they didn't really quite know what they were asking for when it came to audio. How exactly do we get the right audio person for this gig that we're trying to fill? And I was just really trying to be super proactive on it, give them all sorts of stuff, be very forthright about what it was that I was bringing to the table, just expose myself and my skill set to them and say, this is how I can benefit you. I can benefit you not just with my audio skills, but also with my knowledge of fighting games and my willingness to go beyond the audio portion into, say, the game design and the game scripting, because I know how to do some of that stuff. I had done things like worked with the Mugen fighting game engine, which is a free fighting game engine that came out in the late 90s, and I know a little bit about what it takes to make a fighting game character. And they're like, okay, cool, maybe we'll trust you with not just audio, but we'll trust you with more of this stuff. And that building of trust helped with just the overall building of the rapport that I had with the team. Being a small developer, people were really really trusted with doing lots of things in order to make this passion project happen.
Yeah, like showing that you were truly a good fit is a pretty huge for sure. I mean, yeah, we have, for example, like when Celeste came in the door with Matt and team, and Matt's like, yeah, it's pretty speedrunning focused. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like very, very into that idea. So yeah, and of course that turned out to be like an awesome collaboration as well. So yeah, that's really amazing. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with like scripting for fighting games. Like that's so specific, way beyond just like I do sounds, Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of important. It is kind of important that because fighting games are this weird thing. They are made very differently from every other genre of game, such that every individual character is almost an entirely different game in and of themselves. So being able to understand that and actually design to that was really important for them.
Yeah, you mentioned you have some knowledge of scripting as well, as far as like in the audio sense. When I first met you, actually, you were I think it was just some circle we were in at I believe it was at Pyramind. We were hanging out there after the Gang Awards party. And again, this is like 2013 or something. It's a long time ago. But I was like real fresh in the industry. And it was kind of surprising to me like how many people knew things like, oh, here's like some coding language in Fmod, for example. And I recall you were like ranting it. Ranting is a heavy term, but you were heavily encouraging somebody in the circle, I think myself included, to just like learn about what like the vernacular that might help you speak to a coder. Like you don't need to code it yourself, just know what you're looking at and what kind of calls need to be made and so forth. And that can help just entrench you as like a valuable member of the team or a potential member of the team. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. So thank you for being such an inspiration. 7-8 years ago.
Wow, that was so long ago. But when you mentioned Phonopath early on in the stream, wow, was it really that long ago that was you finally put that thing up for up for an award possibility? Yeah, I had played that thing years back. And I thought, wow, this is so cool.
The IGF was in 2015 that I had submitted it for, and but yeah, so I released it on January 6th, 2012, and then I think our conversation was like the year after, because you dragged me into the room and you were talking to Ted Coker, is that right?
Oh man, was it?
and Monty something.
Monty Mud.
Monty
yes.
Mud, yeah.
Yeah, over at Sony.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
really trying to espouse. Yeah, the Sony guys hated that game.
Yeah, they said I owed them 2 weeks of production time. So, yeah, that's like one of my fondest memories in the industry is like being, you know, in that room and you saying like, hey, this, like, you're like, this asshole made fun of that. Yeah, that was very, very cool. So anyways, long time ago, and that single party like was very, very kind of informative to me as far as what kind of like career options were out there and what the game audio scene looked like, because I had like no experience with that at all. So anyways, yes, going along, just waxing nostalgic here. I apologize to all our viewers at home, just talking about pure mind parties. But let me say as well, thank you everyone in the chat for hanging out. We're at a strong viewership already. I'm really happy everyone's kind of coming back, all the kind of words saying you've missed the show and such. Really appreciate that. So we have 2 people to look at today. If you're keen to get started here, Vince.
Sounds good.
We've got Ant Ray Audio. That's antrayaud.io. And we have beardednoise.com. Noise with a Z, with a Z. And I'm just going to zoom in a bit on these pages. Like 150 is good, probably. So let's do that. And in the chat, I saw Ricky say they were... neither has their name. I think it's Ray Barron and Ricky Borroto, something like that. Ricardo Borroto. So that's Ricky, I believe, in the chat, who is... I saw your name, Light Kira 15. There they are. Okay, awesome. Light Kira's hanging out. And I didn't see if Ray is here. I guess Aunt Ray Audio is right
Ray
there.
Barron?
Ray Barron is there?
Yeah.
I trust you. I can't.
Yep, I see him. He said hello earlier on.
Hello, Ray Barron. I'm just blind. Oh, there they are. I see you now. Okay. Hello with 3 O's. Got it. Okay, great. So, given that Ray said hello first, as far as I can tell, we'll do Aunt Ray Audio first. Okay, so we'll just take a glance at the site on the whole first. So we got home, composition, sound design. Music is first. It's on the left. Oftentimes, if something's on the left, there's 2 things that implies it's your focus. So I'm curious. We'll find out. But right now, I assume you're a composer first and sound designer second. We'll see. Yeah. So you create genre-spanning music based on your project's creative and technical needs. You will make sounds which fit into your game's atmosphere to shape the sonic environment and save costly programming hours and make your game's audio more dynamic with middleware. Lovely. Okay. Hi, I'm Ray. So I guess we'll read a quick... This is the bio, right? This seems like a bio? See. Okay, so we'll read the bio.
Looks like it.
Okay, nice to meet you. When I'm working on something I love, I dive in head first. Persistence and stubbornness have become second nature, leading me down a path where I've been lucky enough to gather a broad variety of experiences. As a teenager, I followed my love for pastries and began working as a baker. Since then, I've been busy. In no particular order, I've designed marketing materials and websites, managed large events, moved halfway across the world, met my fiance and a little Shiba Inu named Jake. Coordinated multi-million euro M&A deals, learned to play the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme on piano, and worked as a project manager in software development. Slowly but surely, I've been building a transferable set of skills based around organizing big tasks and developing an eye for detail. This is something I'm thrilled to use to combine my 2 biggest passions in life, music and gaming. There it is. After reaching the logical conclusion and combining these 2 areas, I decided to supplement my musical background and self-study with a formal program and will be concluding Berklee's Game Audio Design and Production Professional Certificate this fall. Nice. Okay, it's pretty heavy in like the non-relevant stuff for the bio, but yeah, I'm curious how you feel about that, Vince.
It's pretty casual, but I will say it's attractive. It is clear, and it actually was kind of inviting for me. It is rather nicely laid out and attractive, I would say.
Yeah, it's it's like a little bit jokey, but I think it's the right amount of jokey. It's not too we have some pretty brutal, like, trying to be funny bios sometimes, and you're like, that's maybe not the time for it. Like, maybe be professional first and then joke later on.
Yeah. I think since the first screenful is pretty straightforward and clear, I'm very accepting of everything starting with "Hi, I'm Ray." So
yeah, no, I agreed fully, and it's interesting because, like, you've got my first thought was like, oh, there's not much for audio stuff in this bio. Because, people will put things like, oh, I did this audio thing, or I did this game jam thing, or I went to this school program, or whatever. And this is like, it's pretty scant, of course. Like, it's just the very last bit. But it kind of makes sense that you did everything else here. It shows like, hey, I'm very driven. I do a lot of things. And here's what I'm doing now. Yeah, I think that's effective in terms of like, this is who I am. And yes, exactly, Ray. It's hard to like dig in deep on your experience because you don't have it yet. So I'm kind of into that, actually. I'm into this. Like, I'm a student, but there's more. Okay, and the origin story, there's a lot more now. Holy. So there is more audio things, a lot of text. Step 1 was learning piano in elementary school. Later, like many teenagers did, I picked up a guitar and started learning my favorite 2000s pop punk songs. That was fun, but power chords only went so far. Over the years, I learned to play and grew to appreciate a variety of musical styles and have gotten comfortable on 6 different instruments. Yeah, that can, okay. Music has always been and will continue to be a important part of my life. Okay, for a long time, I thought games were something to be grown out of. Yeah, me too. Luckily, this never happened. I'm thrilled to be able to make creative contributions to game projects, which bring myself and others joy. Bonnie of Isaac, Hotline Miami, Banjo-Kazooie, Super Hexagon. Yo, Chipsel. Yeah, it's good. Last of Us, Celeste. Oh, buttering us up, and of course, the GOAT, Ocarina of Time. Nice. I do like when people include their gaming affinities. It's nice. Yeah. At first, I was like, it's a lot of text, but it's maybe fine. This first bit's maybe bloated, but okay, whatever. It's fine. Past projects coming soon: Skywind, not GDC, Global Game Jam, and let's talk about you. Okay, great. So back to the top then. That seems like the entire thing, right? Okay, do you want to watch it's generally a sound design show for the most part, but I know you have plenty of music background, right, Vince?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I do a lot of music still day to day.
Cool, great. So which do you want to watch first here? We'll watch both.
Yeah, since music does seem to be the first thing listed here,
okay.
I'd probably go with that.
Great. So I'm going to mute myself just to make sure it's not too crazy on your end. And we'll press play roughly together and have a listen, yeah?
Sounds good.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, and... And we're back.
Ooh.
All right. Oh, and one of these, sorry. Of course. A little bit of applause, some claps, please. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Hey, Barney. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Okay. So I guess before we dive in too deep on the minutia, what's your perhaps quick first impression?
Um, First thing I think is, oh, it's pretty good, but definitely sort of spread out all over the place. I kind of wish he sort of stuck with one thing at a time. Honestly, it's like, oh man, here we got the Crypto the Necrodancer, and then going right into Geometry Wars, but which could have been different, which was really actually quite different, even though they're both very gamey scores. Mm-hmm. And then it just kept on moving around, and I really wanted to establish something a little bit more. It felt like not enough time spent on one thing for me to really get a good feel for him as a musician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm not really I don't have as much experience kind of adjudicating music and such, but one thing I do like to see is a little more indication of like the gameness of it. In that I mean the interactivity. And these clips you've chosen, Ray, are quite unchanging, like it's Necrodancer, it just is the same for the entire clip. And we have Crash Bandicoot, it's the same, it's just a chase scene the entire clip. Geometry Wars, same thing, this is the same shot the whole clip. So having a bit of a choosing your clips kind of in a way that lets you showcase at least like a mock-up of what your implementation might look like, given it's on your site especially, that might be a consideration.
Yeah. And actually, one thing that struck me right at the beginning with Necrodancer is, even though he is both a music composer and a sound designer, maybe he should have shown both of that in this particular clip. And that continued as the clip went on, that I realized, okay, it's just purely a music reel. Mm-hmm. But especially here, I thought, if he's both a music composer and a sound designer, why not show both there?
Yeah, it's definitely a back and forth thing. It's funny because that particular note is like contentious amongst people who get reels, because some are like, yeah, show both, like, show your talents, and some, like Matthew Martinson, for example, who co-hosted Real Talk for a long time with me, like hates that idea of the music and sound being the same reel. Like he wants to see them separate. Just the idea of, I'm hiring a composer, so show me your music, or I'm hiring a sound designer, show me your sound design. So I personally have no problem with this, but I mean, certainly if it comes down to like tailoring your reel to who's listening to it as well. So perhaps,
yeah, that's true. But I would say specifically with Necrodancer, the sound effects are designed to be musical. Yeah. So I think it makes a lot of sense for this particular case, even if you are intending this to be a purely musical reel.
Yeah, I think it's like if you did a redesign of like another rhythm game, similarly, you'd be like, well, it's like only the tunes, and yeah, it's certainly an arguable point. Okay, great. So in terms of, let's just blast through. I do want to watch the sound design one too, just right away. Yeah, out of curiosity, we can maybe like approach the whole thing like it's kind of like one piece for the further notes. So I'm gonna go full screen, and are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. Let's go 3, 2, 1, and. All right. Clap, clap. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so first impression wise, I'll let you go first again, Vince.
Ooh. Man, kind of a similar thing actually to the music, where I wanted things to play out a little bit longer. I know that this wasn't something that really applies to something like a Hollow Knight, but which was actually pretty extended.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, those Limbo scenes gave me a similar sort of feeling.
I was feeling that.
With wow, why it actually gave me that tension that I expect from I guess this is kind of like a well cut trailer.
I think it might be the trailer.
I wanted the sound there.
Is it a trailer? Because I haven't seen the Limbo trailer for a long time, and I think it is the trailer. Like that's my
it
impression.
Actually was the Limbo trailer.
Ray, can you confirm? Are you saying yeah to me saying it's trailer? I can't tell if that was in response to me or not. Maybe let me know, Ray, if that is in fact the trailer. If not, yeah, I feel like it. Yeah, it's not the Wise Project. I thought it wasn't. Because oftentimes, the Wise Project, as I'm sure you're well aware, Vince, you can like download the Wise Project and like put your own stuff in and show an implementation demo, right? So some people do that, and of course, to show that off, they're not going to cut together like a massive reel, like a massive like chunk of shots, because they're not going to do implementation across an entire game for their own personal education. It just doesn't happen. You choose one scene, and they do that scene a lot, and then they play the scene for like a minute. So, it surprised me so far, Ray, just given that you do have the middleware on the front page there, and like I'm talking about this here, of course, in your main page implementation, but nothing is being shown. So it even says on the main preview, it says game music, composition, sound design, effects, implementation, just like it does on your page, right? So, but it's not really shown here, and that may just be due to your experience so far, and that you haven't quite gotten there yet. But yeah, that's one thing I'm really missing. But I was feeling the exact same thing that Vince said. Because like this opening shot was kind of one event, kind of two, like 1.5, a little footstep and a yell from the dinosaur or monster, whatever that was. And then the Hollow Knight was pretty long. And then Limbo was also pretty long, but it was like frenetic. So yeah, it's flow-wise. We'll talk about that. In fact, let's talk about it right now. So going into the criteria, I'll bring it up again for everyone to get reacquainted. I know it's been a while. Presentation. So flow-wise, I'm just going to blast out some common stuff really quick here, Vince. So really common stuff is the titling. Just leave it up the entire time, Ray. I actually forgot that it was up at all for Necrodancer when I first watched it. Just leave it here the entire time. It can't possibly hurt. The order of the words is kind of unconventional. Like putting what you did first is a bit, it's not very typical. Not the end of the world, but having like the name of the game and who made it, and then what you did is worthwhile. Saying redesign is great. If it's here and they missed this shot, they might forget that it's redesign or something. Or if I skip back in the video, I don't want to be like searching for the title. So one hit. Go ahead. Yep.
Definitely in the middle of the Limbo section, I wanted to go back and say, wait a minute, did he say that this was an implementation or it was just a redesign?
Yeah.
I know you showed it, but I must have missed it.
Yeah, I saw it come up as redesign, and I was like, redesign, hey? Like, what do you mean by that? I guess we're going to find out. So yeah, just linear apparently. And having linear redesign for that one might be worthwhile because, as you're well aware, there is a Wise Project, Ray. Like you just said, it's not the Wise Project. So having linear there might be just honest, I guess is a good way of saying it. So flow-wise, it's really, really important to consider the role of sound in telling a story, and the idea of and the role is it supports it entirely. you are telling the story with your audio work. So with the video, it's really important to achieve some flow in the editing as well, because it's directly relevant to what your job is or what you want your job to be with a given employer. So this quick thing at the beginning is like 10 seconds long, and then we have a lot of Hollow Knight for the next 20-ish, and then it's like 30 for Limbo. So having a little more kind of balance there might be a good move. And just similar note, I mean, Hollow Knight it's great in terms of like, here's a whole scene. Here's what the scene sounds like as like one kind of finished, not moment in time, but like it's one story being told. It's a boss fight, and it's nice seeing that as opposed to a single sound like this Monster Hunter roar. It was nice roar, but just it's like here's my one sound kind of thing, and it's not as informative and doesn't demonstrate your abilities quite as effectively as like a scene does with a full and complete story. This is my feeling. As far as like bookend stuff. I mean, it starts out, you have Ant-Ray audio, it looks nice. It seems like you're serious, cool branding and like the pixel font and stuff. It's slick. Yeah, looks nice. And press play. It is silent though, which is unfortunate. Given that you are a sound designer and composer, couldn't hurt to have a little more love put into the intro. Not the end of the world, but it can help. Although the last note I'll say there is that, yeah, if I press play full volume right now, it blasts in. So you're kind of risking someone thinking, oh, is my sound on? And then as soon as they're fiddling with their like sound knob, they're no longer invested. Like they're not paying attention to your reel anymore, right? So you've lost them instantly. At least there's a potential there for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Just there's some opportunity there for some sonic branding and just to actually allow people to recognize, yes, I'm doing audio here. The thing is working as expected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as far as the material selection, it's a little bit scattered too. So if I asked you, Vince, to guess at the kind of job that Ray is going for, like what would your guess be? As far as like echelon of development, like a third-party studio or AAA or whatever.
Well, I mean, it looks like he's. Well, I mean, there's a lot of the indie sensibility over here. Hollow Knight is. I'm just you got Hollow Knight, you got Limbo. I'm just thinking about these types of platformers with this indie or retro sensibility. Mm-hmm. Even though you start off with something like Monster Hunter, which is of course AAA, but there's a lot of that in here, and I imagine that's what you're going for.
Yeah, and then like the composition too is it's got Necrodancer, and then it has like Ocarina of Time. It's like a very
retro.
Different. Yeah, it's like older and different kind of retro, and it's like a massive team by comparison. Same with Naughty Dog, like it's a big team, right? Whereas you've got Hollow Knight, it's like pretty small, and Limbo similarly is like 5 people in that game or something like that for Playdead. So it's a bit scattered in messaging as far as like what you are wanting to be doing, and I think that's pretty important to show. So if you do want to be like freelancing, for example, Ray, saying I can do these things for your needs. This reads like freelance. I assume that's what you're doing is freelance, or what you want to be doing. But realize that, think about who your clientele is going to be. Because if you're looking at sound design for like Naughty Dog, they're not going to hire someone outsourced. They're going to just hire them in-house and have the team do it, right? So that said, if you have like indie stuff also, then it just makes it seem a bit like you're not sure what you want, which is maybe like, it's not, again, not the end of the world, but you just want like winning marks, right? If you have like a very focused reel in terms of like, I'm doing indie stuff, indie is where I want to be, and you have an indie reel, then when some indie developer lands on your page, they'll be like, oh, I know all these games. This person seems like a good fit. But if they have kind of across the board stuff, they might feel like it's not as good a fit as this person over here who does have an indie focused reel. So just realize kind of that communication is an important part of setting yourself, not just like explaining yourself clearly, but also setting yourself apart from your competitors in the industry, like your peers and such. So, so I'm just not clear. I'm not sure at all what you want to be doing. So perhaps it's worth letting us know in the chat, seeing as you're here, Ray. Okay, and then next thing, we'll keep this chugging along, so we have time for Ricky as well. Content quality stuff. So let's go full screen again. Let's watch just the first 10 seconds here. Okay, cool. Thoughts, Vince?
It sounded pretty cool. I guess it sounded, let's see. We got that dinosaur scream. That was really cool, but there was also some other things happening there, and I'm glad that that it was there. I would definitely miss it. The player movement in the water and the green particles at the end of that. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of that, so I could see how that continues to play out. But I'm glad that I guess I'm glad that you covered a decent amount of what is going on in the scene here.
Yeah, the coverage is pretty good. I guess my one note I might make, and this comes across, it's kind of a frequent thing throughout the reel, actually, Ray, is that it's like, oh, there you go, for small indie dev teams. Okay, there you go. So it might be worth just focusing more in indie projects then, but we'll still comment on this stuff for the time being since it's here. So one thing that you're doing, and it shows up in Hollow Knight a bit more, is that you are exploring different ranges of frequency. Like you have like things that are really high focused and things that are like subs focused and lows focused and mid lows and so forth, and things that have a breadth of those things kind of mixed together. But there are moments where I'm like, man, I wish I had more of this in this sound and more of that in this sound. And one really like kind of egregious example of that is this very first footstep right here. So I'll play it full volume this time. Let's go one more time. It's only like, it's only lows, like kind of mid low to low only. And that just isn't what it would sound like from this perspective. That sounds way more distant. I mean, the classic test is close your eyes, and is what you're hearing accurate to what you are seeing? And in this case, I would argue it is not. There'd for sure be some like, it's these talons or claws on this, looks to be like a stone surface or gravel or something perhaps. You'd hear that like crunching and like dragging and such. Even on an impact, you'd still hear that on the impact. It's like small rocks and stuff. See that? So yeah, it's a lot more detail, kind of like what Vince was saying, just digging more into those details of, again, just helping tell the story, and where things are in respect to the listener is a huge part of that story. Okay, let's go on to... Actually, I will mention the voice is cool, though, man. Nice job. I hate doing roars. I'm really bad at it. I'm very bad at that. And... that's not bad. I think it kind of ends abruptly, but...
Yeah, the end of that roar just feels a little bit off. Especially since you do have the footsteps. I guess you wanted it to be like very reverberant, but I imagine that the roar would be similarly reverberant there too.
Yeah, it's just like you create something of a mismatch in how things are sounding based on where you are or where they are. And we have a bit of that happening in Hollow Knight too. There's like the I can't remember his name, this boss. It's like the one boss I fought in the game. Like that impact there, like it's like really crackly and stuff. Maybe it could be more metallic based on the weapon, but whatever. We'll move on to like that landing there is like it's so low, and maybe that's it's worth saying like, oh well, I want to have that like less important than, for example, like the main character's attacks and stuff. So therefore, I'll make it quieter, and that's valid perhaps, but I still think that it needs like something there to help sell what that that higher pitch content might be in the sound. And I can't even. I was thinking maybe it's like a style choice that you're focusing like really heavy in some places, but it's not always the case for all the sounds. So it seems like it's just some oversights here and there. Do you have any thoughts on Hollow Knight, Vince?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. I feel like some of those sounds were too much of the low and squishy stuff, but yeah, I guess I wanted a little bit more other things there, that something that has a more distinct flavor, especially since the attacks themselves are really quite distinct, and usually that's kind of the story that you want to tell when it comes to a boss fight. The boss has specific states, and if you're going to be scoring with sound effects, you want to convey very clearly the difference between those states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say that the attacks do sound snappy, and that sounds great. Like that could ship with the game for sure. Yeah, the player sounds pretty good. Yeah. And Dawn Laundry, that's Joey Goddard from Power Up Audio in the chat, says, I also feel with Hollow Knight, it was heavily influenced by the actual audio of the game, which can be dangerous. There you go. By the way, Hollow Knight's like one of Joey's favorite games ever. I think he's bought the enamel pin like 4 times. He keeps losing it. So he's definitely got strong opinions in this game, and I agree. I think that when you're trying to like do the same thing again, it's dangerous because any redesign is being compared to the original. So when you do like largely what the original sounds like, it's like, okay, sure, so you can recreate it, but you're not really injecting like your own voice into the project yet, you know? I've seen some Ori redesigns like, yeah, it sounds like Ori, but it's like, so you can do Ori, and Ori's like, it's hard to sound like Ori. It's a very beautiful game. So it can be good, but it's not the best it can be in terms of like really putting your own voice in there. There is, the attacks and like snappy sound great. The horn thing that on this attack, where is it? Over there. It felt very like low quality stock sound to me, and I like the idea of putting like stylized stuff into the design. I doubt there really is like a person with a horn in this scene, right? But the idea of that being for the sake of the game is like, okay, cool. Just it felt a bit lower quality than everything else I was hearing in your design. So again, just that mismatch, and it sounds like it's like a low bit rate or something, or a low sample rate rather. Just no highs, but I don't know. Okay, moving on. Limbo. So again, Limbo, you're going to be compared to the original, and the thing is, the Wise project is a great thing to see, like an implementation redesign. It's great to see that in a demo reel, because that means you're taking the time to do it, and it's hard. It's hard to do that. So it's a very good look. And since it's hard and it takes a long time, and it's more that doing that at all shows your passion for the craft. And if it sounds great, it's like a bonus. If it sounds okay, it's still good. It's like you're still learning, and it's showing you're doing it yourself, which is awesome. When you do a linear redesign of Limbo, the gains that you'd have with implementation redesign, they're not present, of course. So now you're just faced with make it sound as good as Limbo, and Limbo's like got an amazing sound designer who won like best audio for Inside, the follow up to from the same studio. So your work's cut out for you basically, and some is good and some is not as good. But the fact is, it's a bold choice for redesign to be linear. Do you have any thoughts on Limbo, Vince?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think it didn't serve you too well to do the trailer, just because so much of the way the trailer is done is anticipation and things that never quite hit. And I feel like that's the exact opposite of what you want to do with this. Something that I want to actually hear a payoff, but there are so many places where, we're seeing the video here. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I want to hear what the potential payoff could be. And I just missed that. I really missed that.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, because like what's here is not bad, but this is not really like the quality thing, but it's just hard to judge quality when like the story isn't being told in full. But yeah, what's here is like, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, but the thing is, everything is kind of on that same level, because you're in that same state of just anticipation and traversing the level, and yeah, we don't get those payoffs. I really want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, but honestly, like it's for design wise, it's pretty good. Like the fly sounds good, and it's hard to make flies sound good because they're usually very annoying. That's one thing I noticed that stood out. Okay, great. Did you want to give any notes on music too? Just sort of anything freeform quality wise?
Let's see. It's kind of tough. Right now, I'd say I'm not sure it's quite there when it comes to the quality mark. I think part of it is actually just the samples that you've got. So it sounds like you're trying to do something that just can't quite be supported with either the samples that are at your disposal or your current ability to program with the samples that you've got. But then there's also these retro things like Ocarina of Time, where it kind of sounds like you're trying for the sound of the N64, but it's really not quite there. Doing that type of retro composition and production is really its own set of skills that people spend a whole lot of time working on that, knowing how to make the most out of specifically what the N64 can do. So I feel like you started out really strong with the Necrodancer, actually. I think that that particular one was produced pretty well. But then as you go further, it's like, I'm not so sure about Zelda, and I'm not so sure about the Never Alone clip either. I feel it's not quite hitting that same production mark there.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I don't really have any more notes beyond that, but I think it's. I think your sound design is stronger than your music. Of these two reels, I like the sound design one more, which is not common when they're both here. Usually, the music is better, so that's pretty cool. Okay, great. So I guess the last thing before we move on to Ricardo, over to Ricky, is just the distinction note. So even if you wouldn't hire them right now, do you think Ray is standing out in a crowd?
Not sure right now. I'm not sure about that. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's. I think that you're on a really good path, Ray. I mean, it seems like you've done a lot of things, and you're serious about like doing stuff and doing it right, just based off this bullet point of things you've done and so forth. So, and I think that honestly, this is like by far not the worst reel we've heard in our life. Like this sound design one's like really solid. Music is on its way too. Your branding is solid and so forth. There's like a lot of really good notes here. I think just a matter of, like you said, just your experience, just dumping more hours into this craft and reaping the benefits, just getting better.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would, let's see. I would love to actually hear a little bit more of that Hollow Knight, because I think that was actually pretty good. And Monster Hunter World as well. I hope that I'm not influenced unduly by the fact that the Limbo was just a linear redesign. I think there's a part of me that was like internally rather disappointed that this wasn't just showing not just redesign of the assets, but also implementation for that.
But that psychological
I think you
aspect is
that
relevant.
might have been a little bit of shooting yourself in the foot there.
Yeah, it's like it's almost that's where the presentation and communication aspect comes in, because it's your abilities are almost secondary. It's like a psychological thing, right? It's like what do they expect to see, and you're playing to what people are expecting to see, and you need to impress them with that, right? So in this case, yeah, it's really rare. I can't even recall the last Limbo redesign I saw that wasn't in Wise. Because it's just like, it's almost like, why would you do it not in Wise if you have Wise available, you know? But the trailer is cool, so I kind of get it. It's tempting. And Ray is saying he's only 6 months in, so honestly, solid effort, man. This is like, it's pretty impressive for 6 months if you're.
I agree with that. Yeah, 6 months.
Very cool.
That's cool.
So
keep on moving on up.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, this is a great example of a reel that I would love to see like version 2 of. If you applied to like Power Up, for example, and then reapplied in like 6 months or a year, we'd probably see the results of that time having passed and that work being put in. So, keep on keeping on, my friend. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Ricky, who has been very patient in the chat. And real quick, of course, Ray, feel free to follow up if you have any like questions or anything. Definitely feel free. I mean, I'm on Twitter and such, so go for it. Okay, so let's have a look at Ricky. I'll go to the main page actually. So beardednoise.com. First, Whale Ed Minor. Hi, I'm a relatively new sound designer from the amateur historian. Okay, so can you check out some of my work if I send it to you? Of course, yeah. If you're hanging out in the chat right now and you're curious, you can submit work to all of those links down below, to Power Up Audio, that's our whole studio, to Reggie McKay, that's me on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, you can use our inquiry form on our website, and we will let you know when we slot you in. And we have some awesome guest hosts coming up, in addition to Vincent Diamante, who's on with us right now. Okay, let's move on to Ricky, and I apologize if I'm butchering your last name, Borroto. Oh man, I feel bad for last names. Hi, says this front page, and a video. Okay, so very clear in terms of what we should be doing. I don't mind it. I'm really big on having your video front and center, just shove it in their face and say, watch this thing is why you're here. So awesome. I'm good. No one gets your last name right, so I didn't get it right. There you go. Okay, pretty long bio. Let's have a look here. So hello, I'm Ricardo, last name. I'm also known as Ricky, yes, without the C. I'm an avid board gamer, D&D lover, video gamer, and beer lover. I have experience working as a manager, music teacher, and I'm currently a cellarman and server at a brewery. Cellarman, cool. Ever since I was a kid, I've had a passion for all things audio and video games. I eventually went off to become a percussionist, and after a few years, ended up teaching and writing music. While doing that, I needed a little more income while I figured out that my next step, so I ended up in the service industry and stayed working in it for 6 years. Sounds like me. But recently, with the birth of my daughter, came a need for change and a more reliable job to support my family with. I decided to finally pursue my lifelong dream of becoming a sound designer for a AAA gaming company. Well, there it is, AAA ambitions. So I enrolled in Full Sail University's audio production certificate program, where I learned how to use Pro Tools, Logic Pro X, and plugins to edit and mix and master audio. I also learned how to properly gain stage and record Foley. I plan on going back to Full Sail Online and enrolling in the audio production bachelor's program, degree program in June of 2020. On my own time, I completed the course provided by Wise on audio implementation, and now I'm hungry for more. I want to expand my knowledge and skills and grow with a AAA company. I'm ready to pour my creativity into a project and be part of a team where we share our knowledge, grow together, and experiment with new concepts. TLDR, I'm just a nerdy, bearded dad that likes to make noises. Cool. You could probably trim that down a bunch, but very cute.
Yeah,
Very nice.
It's very cute. You got me with the baby. That's cute.
You big softy.
I am. I got to admit.
Yeah, you could probably. I mean, I'm forever a fan of minimalism and trimming things down and just trimming fat wherever you can. So, one big thing, Ricky, is I would recommend removing or rephrasing everything that could be in anybody's bio. So like one thing we always see is like, I am passionate about games. It's like, well, I hope so. And just in terms of like the tools you use, like Pro Tools, Logic Pro, plugins, how to gain stage, record Foley. Like I'm not as interested. Like if I needed to cut something from this, I'd probably cut like what you learned in school. Like knowing you went to school for audio production, I have a general idea, like a general sense of what you probably learned while going there. And you don't really need to, like, it's just not necessary to be outlining like what you learned in school. I'm far more interested in finding out what you learned by looking at your work and saying, oh, is it awesome? And if it's awesome, then you probably learned a lot. So we'll learn that way instead. That said, doing things like I did this on my own time, the WISE certification, then cool. Yeah, because it's on your own time. It shows you're aware of middleware and you use it. So that's cool. Do you have any other notes on that, Vince?
Let's see. I think that's good. Man.
Cool.
I mean, I definitely can't help but compare to, Ray from before.
Yep.
Because I feel like Ray did have a similar amount of text when it came to him describing himself. Actually, looking back at it, it's maybe a little bit less. But I guess I forgave that really easily because it was really made clear up front what exactly he did: music composition, sound design, and implementation. And then here, I why not just put that stuff up front?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, like just find another way to bullet point it. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the contact page, we have classic form. Okay, and then we have Instagram and LinkedIn. Does LinkedIn link work? It does. Cool. And Instagram, Bearded Noise, we got We have
One
one post
post.
of the logo. So I would question the value of putting this link here if there's basically nothing to see. Like, we've seen it right here. It's over on the left-hand side. So yeah, unless it's like we've seen some Instagrams being linked, and it's pictures of like them doing field recording and stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. It's relevant and cool. And Instagram does offer like another window into this person's life that whom you're considering hiring. But yeah, it's just not really relevant if there's nothing there. So again, trim the fat. Let's go back to the noise link. And here's the demo reel. So pretty trim page, just the about, contact, and a reel. Let's go full screen. Make sure I'm turned up over here.
That's a pretty cool logo, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm super into it. The waveform bearded noise also. It's good.
Very cool.
Very good all around. I like it a lot. And awesome seeing this. There is a logo at all of some kind. It's nice. A little more attention given to your branding and such shows you're more serious. So, less risk on a hirer's part. Let's go full screen. It's a minute 41. Okay, it's a bit longer than I like it, but we'll see how we do. We'll go 3, 2, 1, and. Oh, geez. Abrupt. Okay. Nice.
Cool.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I was growing impatient around 110, but it's fine. It's not brutal, and it's not.
Whoa.
It's not it doesn't drag on.
Hey, I'm sorry, I can't hear you on the call right now.
Oh, you're right. You couldn't. I apologize. I was saying that at like 110, I became impatient around there. But it didn't drag on. It wasn't like, we've seen some longer reels that are like, oh man, get on with it. So you did mix it up and keep it going, so good on you. Okay, so just again, first impressions before anything else, Vince?
Nice start. I definitely liked I actually really liked starting with the black and having just pure sound there right before your brand came up. I thought that was a really good start to this whole reel.
Yeah, very cool. I was into the start a lot, and I think on the whole, it's good. I don't think it's amazing, but it's definitely good. So nice work, man.
Yeah.
And there's certainly, of course, there's things that are better than others, but on the whole, it's like, yeah, it's pretty solid. And Josh Adam Bell from Cloud Imperium says that was solid. Nice. There you go. The legend, Josh Adam Bell. I haven't referenced your page once this whole stream, Josh. All right, so let's carry on. Let's watch that sweet intro again. Little steps. Cool. Yeah, very nice. Okay, so I guess this criteria-wise, we'll just blast through this. We got some time. So presentation first. Again, right away, we have this marriage of the logo in the intro to the, where are you? There it is. To, of course, the logo on the main page. So that cohesion just shows, again, you're serious and you're putting time into this whole audio thing. So good. It's definitely a very good look. Again, logo's sweet. The same note, you probably already know this because I mentioned it during Ray's critique, but the redesign text, I think, goes away, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Just keep it up the entire time. Can't possibly hurt. And it can hurt if it's down. So yeah, keep titles up. The flow, I mean, I think it's long for my liking, but I know it's... I
was just slowing down. After somewhere in the middle of Borderlands 3, I kind of felt like, oh my God. Let's move on. Let's move on a bit.
And then, so I will mention though that across all the, like my various peers in the industry and across our various guest hosts we've had on the show, the opinions vary in terms of like how long your reel should be, but I think if we like did a bar graph or something, it'd be like the most are at a minute. Like people a minute can't hurt. The idea being that you have your demo reel, Ricky, and it's like a teaser trailer, very short. And then if you do want to show like the long form versions of those pieces that you showed in your demo reel, you can put those elsewhere, like on a portfolio page or something like that. And then if I do like your content, I will go and watch the rest, believe me, of course, because I want to learn more about you, right? So, so Josh is saying had that long section showing weapon sounds on their own in Borderlands, which made it drag a little. Yeah, it was a lot of guns. I mean, to your credit, it makes it very clear what you want to be doing and what this demo reel, who this demo reel is aimed at. So good. This certainly doesn't suffer from the same problem that we saw in Ray's in terms of being scattered and kind of being unclear in terms of your ambitions. Like it's very clear from the content of the reel and as well from your bio saying you want to work in AAA. So these two things are very much in congruence. Okay. The end cuts off pretty hard and strangely. That's one thing. It's like, and we're done. Just be aware of that. Just those details matter. Again, details missing, like details like that, that's not really relevant to sound directly. It can reflect on your eye for details in other areas, like your actual work in audio. So again, can't hurt to smooth those little things out, okay? Let's talk about, material is like kind of done. We just said that you're working AAA, obviously. So cool. Do you have any thoughts on the pieces that he's chosen to redesign?
I think they're definitely good choices. Certainly when it comes to, you definitely have a lot of guns, yes. And that's cool. I certainly like guns, and overall, I think you did an okay job at them. I definitely, I don't think that they are without criticism. Just things like the differences between enemy guns and your guns, and there are definitely some places where I feel like you could do more interesting detail work on the guns themselves, which is fine. And similarly with the Sekiro, I feel like, this is good work. It sounds good. There's some good choices made there, but then there are some further details that I think, isn't his much longer sword making a similar swash sound to the player's much shorter sword? Mm-hmm. Things like that are just making me think, okay, from a high level, it seems good, but I want to see that attention to detail.
Yeah, it's awesome. Ricky, don't get us wrong. It's awesome that we're having this conversation and not like a very basic, fundamental kind of swath of feedback. It's like, let's talk about the detail work instead, because it means your foundation is solid. So good on you.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about those details then. There was like one sword swipe. I was like, what? It's like so light. For how big this guy is. Just be aware of your frequency choices in terms of like, just not only in terms of like the size of a character, but more in terms of, again, telling that story. Like you're supporting the story of this boss fight, and that story is a difference in size, and you're up against terrible odds, right? Like this is not an easy game. So trying to reflect, it should be at the forefront of your efforts to try to reflect that difference in like size and the present danger and such in the audio. So yes, making you sound powerful as a player is very important, but having some difference between you and them, whatever them is, with this enemy or another enemy or whatever, is definitely worthwhile because it just helps support the story. It's not the same character fighting. You're not fighting like a mirror version of yourself or something, or like a versus like a fighting game like Vince mentioned, where it's like Ryu versus Ryu. That's not the story being told here. It's definitely a massive difference between these two characters. So close your eyes. Can you hear who's attacking? Like, is it the big guy or the little guy? Is it you or like this other beast or whatever? It's just very important to try to sink your teeth into those differences and like Vincent was saying, hit those details a bit more.
Yeah. I also noticed that there were a couple places where I thought, oh man, there should be a sound there. But then I realized in Sekiro, there's a lot of stuff that is conveyed not with explicitly sound effects, but subtle vocalizations and vocal emotes. And I guess you don't do that in this particular sound design. I don't know. What do you think about that, Kevin?
I mean, you know what? I just took my vacation. I'm back today. And the whole team at Power Up, I asked them before I went on break. I said, "What should I play?" And they all said Sekiro, and then I didn't play it. So,
oh man!
So I should have. I would have had an immediate like comparison in my head as far as like what the game sounds like and what this redesign sounds like. So I can't really comment on like the conveying certain information like without sound or whatever. I have no idea.
Yeah, there was that thing there with like the bomb, where it's like he throws out the bomb there.
Oh, sure.
And there's no sound effect there, and I was actually waiting for that. So that,
Joey says needs more deflects. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, it's kind of there. It's like what kind of, but again, the story being told. It's not like maybe it's worth being more different in terms of like, did you land the hit or did you get parried or whatever, right? Just have it really, really obvious. I'm gonna go full volume again, listen to that one more time, see if anything stands out. Let's go. That's something else. I don't know. I know in Dark Souls there is some... They just ignore 3D location of things and just play stereo sounds. Like when something dies, for example, you kill a Black Knight, and it's like like the big like something died sound. And if like Black Knight like falls off a cliff and dies like 8 seconds later, you hear the sound like full volume, even though like at the bottom of the world, And so that is a thing. I don't know how much I agree with the stereo sound. I don't know if it's a conscious choice because like the whooshes are so wide. It's like hard right to hard left, like for a whoosh, and it's in front of us happening. And I don't know if Sekiro sounds like that. I have no idea. I would not make that decision. I think having some stereo, like a bit of a stereo field, is cool because it can make things sound a bit richer and a bit larger than life, and help things like get heard in the full stereo spectrum. But yeah, it's like really wide. And what that, in my opinion, what that can lead to is an absence of space. And if there's an absence of space, you're kind of removing part of the story because like where things are happening is no longer a consideration. It's just everything is big and wide and it's the same regardless of where it's happening. So just if it was by choice, then cool. If it wasn't, then just, be aware of that having some stereo width can be cool, but having a lot all the time, it can kind of end up removing information from what we're looking at. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the Borderlands stuff. And full disclosure, I am totally not like a gun guy as far as sound design goes. It's a lot of hard work, and it's not something I've done a lot of, so it's hard for me to give you like really good feedback. We had Travis. Do you know Travis Nace, Vince?
Actually, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's where's he at now? I think he's at Riot right now. in their like R&D department, but he previously did all the weapons design in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. So he's like got a long storied career and tons of gun design. And he was on here as a guest host. Last round of guest hosts we had, and I was here like taking notes on his gun notes. Like, I have no idea. He's a genius though. By the way, Alex Barnhart, one of the first, if not the first person on Real Talk ever, is working at Respawn, right? On Fallen Order. So, or on like the Star Wars stuff rather. So, Killer, good job, man. Claps for you.
Ooh,
oh, heck yeah. Star Wars team, there you go. Congrats. So cool seeing people doing it after being on the show. Not like we did the work for them. Alex has been cranking for a long time, so good on you, man. Let's press play on Borderlands. Yeah, I do actually like how you had the opening of kind of environmental things and Foley things, and then move into guns afterwards. So you have this, like, you are doing like a full kind of scope of here's like different kinds of sounds in this game I want to work on, which is nice. If it was only guns, then I might give you feedback like, I want to hear more than just guns. So good. Josh says the panning on that ship flyby at 30 seconds in Borderlands was very wide at points and pulled me out a little bit.
I was going to say that. It's like, shouldn't that be centered since I'm always just moving my camera so that thing is centered? But
yeah,
I thought it was funny.
Here we go. Yeah. It's challenging with mock-ups like this in 3D because you're forced to do a lot of like manual panning of things in this scene. But yes. Disturb the trees a little, says Josh. There you go. Yeah, Vince?
Sorry, I couldn't hear any of that.
Of the game or of me?
Well, you said I heard trees a little, and then
I was reading Josh saying he says maybe disturb the trees a little. He said once a ship centered, and then maybe bring in the width, having it to excite the environment verbs. Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, some motivated environment sound surrounding you. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's kind of it's a little bit. Independent of the environment it's in.
Yeah.
Again, tell that story, right? What's going on? What's happening around it? Let's skip ahead to like a minute-ish. Oh, I just saw right now there's a taskbar at the bottom of this video too. I didn't see that. That's kind of funny. All right, well, moving on. Yeah, this gun, I don't know. It's again, I'm not a gun guy at all, so it's hard for me to comment too much. But it's got like is it like a bit crush, like the yo thing going on the shot, you know? I don't hate it.
It's not bad. It honestly feels a little bit too feels a little bit too big, the sound, because we're in this ostensibly open space. So it actually feels a little bit off to me. Yeah, I think the sound itself is good and the component parts are good, but just that aspect of it.
Yeah, perhaps might be the same kind of note as the Sekiro like super wide sword whoosh stuff. It's like just be really at this moment in time. Ricky, I don't know if you're paying attention to your stereo stuff and like doing it intentionally or not, and that's probably a problem that like I can't tell if you're doing it intentionally or not. So yeah, just be really careful of how much you're filling the entire scene, like the entire stereo field, because especially in games like this, like the players are getting information from their Logitech surround system from stuff happening over there, or on stereo systems like from the left speaker or whatever. So if your gun sound is like filling up the entire stereo field every time, or the sword wishes are, or whatever, you're risking masking things that are happening elsewhere in the mix, like in the stereo field, that would otherwise be informing the player and informing their choices, like turn to the left and shoot that guy or whatever, right? So yeah, be aware. and now Cyberpunk. Okay. Yeah, so this is what you're saying regarding the guns of your enemies and the guns of you, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're ostensibly similar types of guns, just small arms, full auto, but it doesn't feel like there's that that much of a difference between the quality of your shooting and their shooting. And I think that there could be done more with the tone as well as the spatiality over there.
Yeah, it seems like it's largely a volume thing, just like turning it as far away. And really, like, the volume wouldn't be, I mean, it's just like the same room almost still, so it's not going to be crazy different. But yeah, like there's one part where your auto fire stops during their auto fire, and it just sounds like the same as it carries on. So yeah, it's like it's really similar. So be aware of that. That's something like a GDC audio boot camp. Like the first year I went, there was I think it was John Bird gave a talk and was talking about this exact problem that your game director comes back and says, "I can't hear the enemy's guns. Turn it up," and that's not the answer. The answer is like occupying a different frequency range with that enemy's guns, because then they can both live together, and you're not just like turning one up, because now you turn that one up, it's like, I can't hear my own guns, turn it up. You just end up in this stupid loudness war where you're just turning up until it distorts. So yeah, having a little more selection, like mindful selection of the frequency focus of weapon fire for the player versus the enemies is probably a good move there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes with these, sometimes with these shooting games, when the enemy fires, it's not about where they're firing from, but whether they're actually going to be in a state of hitting you or not. So you might want to think about designing your sounds that way. Enemies that are going to shoot you and have it's going to hit you regardless, and enemies that are just sort of firing wildly, which is a lot of modern first-person shooter design. I know Cyberpunk is not necessarily a traditional modern first-person shooter, but it might be a good way to go about thinking about how you shift the tone of those sounds.
Yes, and Alex is beating me to the punch here. The next thing I was going to talk about is the space you're in. Alex says, personal taste, perhaps, but I love emphasizing indoor tales for these guns in a room like this, so the fight in small quarters feels more tense and claustrophobic. Yeah, the sense of space is kind of missing. It's a bit like, here are the gun sounds, but this is a pretty tight space you're in. It's not like the ceilings are right above you. Yeah, having a little more love to the space might be worthwhile. I wanted to mention also, there was a void in the design, and I saw it the very first time through, and I thought, is it really silent right now? Like, aren't there things happening? And it's right up here at like 1:35-ish. Right here. Like, we just hear like an AC unit in the background and nothing else. And I think there's like stuff flying here too, isn't there? Like, right here. There's like things flying away. Like, there's things in the air. I think because there's gunfire that's like breaking stuff, or there's people walking in the room. Like, we should for sure hear that in an otherwise silent room. You'll hear the person walking, for sure you will. And even if you think like, oh, well, they're walking quietly or they're like too far away or something, this is a wonderful chance for you, the sound designer, to communicate your maturity as a sound designer, and that is designing things you can't see. Because it's very, very common for people who are looking to get jobs in AAA or any kind of job to do redesigns where the person designs everything that the camera is looking at, and they ignore everything outside that. So in this case, yeah, our view is obscured, but that's your chance to shine, man. Like, this game is not even out yet. You can do whatever you want in these like 3 seconds. Here you go. Like, what's happening over there? It's not nothing. For sure, we can be more interesting than nothing, right? This is a great blank canvas to work with, okay? Okay. I think I'm out of notes. Do you have anything else you want to say, Vince?
I think the only thing I want to say is that overall, I think the quality is pretty good on this. Even though we're getting into a lot of stuff, overall, I think this is a pretty good reel.
Yeah, again, I can't stress enough, we're talking about details in a big way. And it's I mean, I love talking in details a lot more than like, oh, well, you should like think about putting a sound for this thing that we just saw and there's no sound for it. Like, it's just very basic. But yeah, you're definitely past the basics, so you're well on your way for sure, Ricky. Okay, so I guess the final thing to say here, it's now 5:27, right on time. All these things considered, do you think that Ricky is currently standing out in a crowd?
Yeah, I think that in terms of the quality of the sounds that he's got here, and I think that there's definitely some real worth that he's put here in this reel. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that it is too. This is I suspect this may be the kind of reel where you might not get hired right away, but you might get questions like, do you do implementation? And apparently on your about, it says you do. You did a course in your own time. So this right here, on your own time, you did a course for Wise. I would love to see some indication of what you learned, because your asset design, like this gun sounds and so forth, are, sure, there's room for improvement, but they're on their way. But I think that the bar for hiring currently in the industry is like, show you can implement stuff. Just show you have an understanding of that. Josh says a Unreal Engine 4 and Wise demo or something would be awesome. Yeah, let's, just for old time's sake, let's have a look at joshadambell.com. Seeing as he's saying how sweet something like that might be. Look at Josh's page. This is like, be still my heart. Yeah, so did like the adaptive Foley, did like the occlusion thing. Like, I know what Josh's implementation like commentary videos are. This is how good this guy's page is. So like these things are so convincing. So Ricky, not to pounding into the pavement here, but if Josh applied, so ignore like the Star Citizen stuff, ignore like everything above this basically. So this was his page previously. It was like sound design for Skull and Bones, Titanfall 2, and some in-engine stuff he did. This is the state it was in when he got hired at Cloud Imperium, or pretty close to it, and he applied with this, right? This was his content. So compare your application to a company to Josh's application to a company. If I have one job opening and I have this front page of like, here's my sweet reel and a ton of stuff that shows I'm so serious, like look at all this work I've done on my own time. This is so convincing. And go to your page and it's like, hi, and here's my one video. So while this video is good, it's like a good start, very good foundation. It's I don't know if it's gonna like wow people and have them hire you. It would probably get their attention, but I don't think that it's enough quite yet. I think the work you've been doing is obviously showing, and it's great. Just keep going. Just keep doing more stuff. And honestly, use Josh's page as a template as far as the content you can put in there, because he did it right for sure.
Definitely.
Okay. So I guess we'll do one more of these. Some applause, some claps for Ricky, please. And again, just like Ray, please feel free to follow up if you have any questions or anything, man. And I mean, I'd love to see version 2, as always. I love seeing what people have been doing in the meantime, So I'll give you the floor, Vince. If you have anything you want to talk about as far as your current projects or anything to watch for or anything, just feel free.
Let's see. Well, I have one thing when it comes to demo reels that I started recommending to people a couple, I guess about 2 years back. And it seems like that's worked well for the people whom I've recommended it to, which is there are a lot of games out there. And even if you're interested in doing something that is AAA, working with a very high profile company on high budget stuff, there are a lot more games out there besides Borderlands 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 and all of that. It can be a little bit tiresome on that. I mean, certainly if that is exactly what you want to do, Cyberpunk, you're going to be applying over there and you're going to be working in Poland as a sound designer. That's great. But there's a whole lot of stuff out there. And one of the things that I recommended was Japanese games that never make it to the English-speaking world. There's actually a lot of stuff out there, and I told someone, hey, you're working on a game with like magic and stuff. Check out these magical arcade games by companies like Sega and Square Enix that never come over to America. And they put out trailer after trailer after trailer of that. And that's a really rich world that you can go into and dive into and try rescoring that. And that could actually be really fun, not just for potential employers to see some fresh content, but also for you as a sound designer in getting inspired by something different that is not the usual stuff that we see from, well, I guess not E3 this year, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. I like it. I know I love seeing stuff I've never seen before. I mean, I think of like Kate Kelly did a redesign of Snake Pass, which I've like never seen a Snake Pass redesign before or since, and it's just like a weird game redesign. And for that, I pulled it out right now, right? Like I saw this thing like a year ago, and it's still in my brain. Whereas yeah, you see like the Borderlands redesigns, you see the like Call of Duty and stuff all the time. So yeah, I like it. It's awesome. Can't possibly hurt. I will mention as well. I want to just highlight what Vince said in terms of like, if you're looking to work at CD Projekt Red, then sure, like by all means, redesign their stuff and send it to them, because it shows you like you put time into tailoring a reel to them, and these are games you love and you're showing them. We had Rob Kreckler from Naughty Dog, and he was saying that he loves seeing his stuff redesigned, like things he designed in Uncharted 3 or whatever, and sees it redesigned. He's like, awesome. I can't get enough of it. So yeah, definitely do it. Okay, I have nothing more to say except for thank you so much, Vince. I mentioned just today in like the Game Audio Slack, like, yeah, we're back, and Vince is like, are you doing guest hosts? And I was like, you want to come on? It was like 1 p.m. and he just jumped on board. So yeah, thanks a lot, pal. And it catalyzed something of a cascade effect, and now we have a bunch more guest hosts who are already like slated to come in the coming weeks. So. Thanks, pal. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm really glad. I'm glad that your little vacation was great, and I'm looking forward to seeing the future episodes.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be back at work now. It's kind of, it's getting a little bit like, oh, I need some time off. So now I'm like, I'm feeling really good.
Time off from the juggling, huh?
Yes, exactly. Time off to juggle, man. To juggle. Okay, everyone in the chat, thanks again for being here. Again, as always, feel free to submit your stuff down below at Power Up Audio, at RegMK, or on our website. And I would love to have a look at some point in the future. So I will say goodbye to you, Vince. Thanks a lot, pal.
Ooh, thank you.
And thanks, everyone else. Peace.